Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. The sex trafficker and the domestic abuser are both predators. They are both looking for victims. One is looking for a victim to marry so he can exploit and use her, and the other predator is looking for a woman he can sell and exploit. There is nothing nice about either of these predators. These predators are looking for women that they can use, abuse, and exploit. For example, think of the older man who's marrying a younger girl. He can control her every move because she is still a child, undeveloped, uneducated, has no money, and more than likely he uses religion in his effective grip over her life. Often people, especially people that go to church, they say or they assume domestic violence does not happen within the Christian relationship. But nothing is further than the truth. Victims can be found in every faith. Domestic violence is a topic that is often bound by ignorance and set to other plans, and yet is one of the most important topics of modern time. Although you think that domestic violence is something that happens far, far away, that it is impossible that it's happening to you, you will be shocked to know that at least several of you are either victims or know someone who is a victim of domestic violence. According to the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, an average of 20 people per minute experience intimate partner abuse every minute, and every 1 in 3 women have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime. Things even get worse when we know that slightly more than half of female victims of domestic violence live in households with children under the age of 12. Think about that. If a young boy is watching his mother getting beaten by his father, how do you think he will behave when he grows up? He will learn that it's okay to beat women, to insult women, and to humiliate women. His father is teaching him those lessons. Even worse, when young girls witness domestic violence, she will learn that it's okay for men to beat women. Therefore, her chances of becoming a victim are far greater because this environment of domestic violence becomes normal to her. As you can see, it doesn't take a bruise from a child to be a victim of domestic violence. Kids who witness domestic violence are victims also. So, how is this possible? How is it possible that such destructive and horrible thing like domestic violence happens so often and to so many women and children? Why don't they say something? The other day I was reading a story that happened in 2007 about a young girl, and her name was Pam, who she got pregnant by her boyfriend and they decided to get married. Her sister said she wasn't sure if she should marry him and that on her wedding day she was the saddest bride ever. One night, Pam told her sister that she doesn't want to get married, explaining that he often yells at her and that sometimes he doesn't even permit her to leave the house. But she also said it would be bad for her child to grow up without a father, that he can provide financial security, and that he will improve once they get married. That was a lie. Man improves after domestic violence. That is the biggest lie in the world. Her sister told her that she didn't have to be afraid, that she could raise her child on her own, and that she didn't have to marry him only because he could provide financial security. That mustn't be the reason to marry him, she said. That definitely would not be good for the baby. In fact, it would certainly be wrong. Unfortunately, Pam did not listen. She married him after all. Later, her hopes of him improving completely vanished as he continued the same type of behavior. After the baby was born, things got worse. He would press her against the wall or the floor, humiliate her by saying horrible things. Things went even further as he got into her online accounts and began to control everything. Her sister kept saying to Pam to get out, but Pam wouldn't listen. He will be better. He will calm down, she used to say. Time for red flags when he got a gun. He told Pam that the gun was for protection. But pretty soon, Pam found out that the gun was pointed at her head. He told her if she ever tried to leave him, he would kill her and the child, or that her child would grow up without a mother. She started searching for a way out. Unfortunately, it was too late. One night, two uniformed men rang at the door of Pam's sister. They told her they found Pam and her husband dead in their home. Pam was killed and her husband committed suicide. He looked to her online account and found out that she was chatting with an old boyfriend. He completely snapped, and after hitting her several times, he killed her and then he killed himself. Just because she was afraid that she would not be able to raise her child on her own to provide financial security, Pam was killed. Unfortunately, there are thousands of stories just like this, and the reason women stay in these kinds of relationships are almost always the same. The most disturbing part of this is that the woman accepts domestic violence as a part of their life. What does this mean? This means that if a woman is subjugated to domestic violence, she won't say anything to anyone because she is afraid. She is afraid that she won't be able to manage her life by herself. She's afraid of what people will say. If she divorces and becomes single again, she's afraid for her child. No one's life should look like this. Freedom is not when you choose to stay in a relationship with your abuser. It is not sacrificing yourself just because someone made you believe you depend on him. Freedom is about love and caressing for each other, and if we keep quiet and close our eyes, we won't be able to help many other women who are in danger. So I tell you that if it is our moral duty to speak out and to do something about this issue. If you think you are a victim of domestic violence, come and speak to someone who is a friend, neighbor, pastor, psychologist, someone who can give you information on how to leave, how to get out of that situation. If you know someone for whom you think they may be a victim, reach out to her and talk to her when she is alone. If you were victims of domestic violence but you managed to get out, come and share your story. Give hope to other victims. Together we can help victims, and precisely because we can, we must. I am going to pause for a second to take a short break.
You're watching Detroit's own WHPR TV. Detroit Live.
Hi, this is Renee stepping out on faith. You can watch me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the WHPR TV Now app. Download our free app at WHPR TV Now.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Attention women, have you ever asked yourself why society views you as a lesser being to a man? Or why most leadership positions are filled by men? I urge you to visit touchedbythelight.us and get your copy of this amazing, inspiring new book called Women of Courage Part 2. It's carefully written with a passion for all women. It's the time for all mothers, sisters, and daughters to come together as one. Unite together and understand your life and make a change today. Visit touchedbythelight.us and order the book Women of Courage Part 2 and feel the love and dedication it has to offer. Get your copy today. Are sex trafficking and literacy important to you? Would you like to help? Well, now you can. We meet twice a month on Saturday. I invite each and every one of you to join me at a local restaurant throughout the city to discuss the importance of sex trafficking and literacy in our community. We need your help now. If you would like a chance to give back to your community, I urge you to send an email to murderedvoices@gmail.com to get dates, times, and locations of each meeting. Again, email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com. Stand up and help us fight the good fight together. Attention women, have you ever asked yourself why society views you as a lesser being to a man, or why most leadership positions are filled by a man? I urge you to visit touchedbythelight.us and get your copy of this amazing, inspiring new book called Women of Courage Part 1. It's carefully written with a passion for all women. It's the time for all mothers, sisters, and daughters to come together as one. Unite together and understand your life and make a change today. Visit touchedbythelight.us and order this new book, Women of Courage Part 1, and feel the love and dedication it has to offer. Get your copy today.
Hello, are you downcast, emotionally, and psychologically broken? Still finding it difficult realizing your deepest life aspiration and fulfilling your dream of ever becoming that courageous woman you have wanted? You don't have to worry about that anymore, as I provide you with the lasting solution to turn this around. I am delighted to introduce to you a 3 amazing and life-changing book series titled Women of Courage, Part 1, Part 2, and How to Become a Woman of Courage. These preach the personification of burning passion, courage, commitment, and inspiration we've simply felt compelled to express. These books are so inspiring. It motivates and encourages women to be more than the ordinary, influencing, and controlling life situations you thought you couldn't do. It educates you to break the social norms and become the unexpected and respected woman leader. It teaches you to support your own mind, your dreams, and helping you unleash your potentials. Now is the time to start thinking outside the box and overcoming emotional and psychological challenges. You too can change your world today. Why don't you challenge your fear and become a woman full of freedom that you have so dreamed of? Compared to the millions of ideas and thought it shares for your happiness and courage, the books are super amazingly affordable. You also have the privilege of reading an excerpt from the book before placing an order. Simply go to the website touchedbythelight.us and click on the book cover to learn more about these adventurous books. Do not compromise your dreamed freedom, strength, and boldness. I would highly recommend that you give this a shot. Best Women of Courage.
Signs of domestic abuse are not always obvious as one may think. That's because domestic abuse is about controlling a person's mind and emotions as much as hurting or destroying their body. Being abused can leave you scared and confused. It can be hard for you to see that your partner's actions are really being done to hurt you. Usually, physical abuse does not come first. The abuse can creep in slowly. First, there's a put down. Then there's the odd excuse to keep you from your family and friends. The violence often ramps up once you have been isolated, once you've been cut off from friends and family. Then the violence starts. But by then, you are trapped. The biggest red flag for signs of abuse is if you are afraid of your partner. You may be scared to say what you think. You may be afraid to speak on certain topics. You may be afraid to say no to sex. No matter why you are afraid, fear has no place in a healthy relationship, and that is a big warning sign that there's something wrong in your relationship. If you feel like you are being abused, there's a good chance that you are, and it's worth getting help. Keep that in mind as you think about these signs. Your partner bullies, threatens, or controls you. He accuses you of having an affair. He blames you for the abuse. He's constantly criticizing you. He tells you what to wear and how you should look. He threatens to kill you or someone close to you if you don't do what he tells you to do. He throws things at the wall or he punches the wall when he's angry. He yells at you and he makes you feel small. Your partner controls the money. He keeps the cash and the credit cards from you. He puts you on an allowance and make you explain every dollar that you spend. He keeps you from working whatever job you want. He steals money from you or your friends. He will not let you have money for basic needs like food and clothing. Everything has to come from him. Your partner cuts you off from your family and friends. He keeps close tabs on where you go and with whom you are with. He makes you ask for an okay to see friends and family. You have to beg to see your mother. He embarrasses you in front of others, and he makes you want to avoid people because of the way that you look or the way that he treats you. Then your partner starts the physical abuse. He abandons you in places that you don't know where you are. He attacks you with weapons. He keeps you from eating or sleeping or getting medical care. He locks you out of the house, or he locks you in the house or in the basement or in the bathroom. He punches you, he pushes you, he kicks you, he bites you, he pulls your hair. Your partner sexually abuses you. He forces you to have sex. He makes you dress in a sexual way. He makes you feel like you owe him sex. He tries to give you an STD. He will not allow you to use either condoms or birth control. Now, if you think someone is being abused, consider these signs. Keep an eye out for things like excuses for injury, personality changes like low self esteem in someone who has always been confident, constantly checking in with their partners, never having any money on hand, overly worried about pleasing their partner, skipping out on work or skipping out on school or social outings for no clear reason, wearing clothes that do not fit the season, like long sleeves in summertime to cover bruises. Other signs of abuse: when the partner emotionally or verbally abuses a person, then he takes away their keys or their medical or their medicine or other essentials, or he's constantly putting them down in public or on social media. And then it can be physical. To make up for difference in strength, abusive partners may try to attack you in your sleep, by surprise, or with weapons and other objects. They may also abuse you, your children, or your pets. There are very little signs of any differences in how people are abused, even if they're in the LGBTQ community. Now, the sexual orientation may be a target or gender identity, and the abuser may excuse for the abuse, like it just how men are, or that you wanted it to happen. They tell you that police and others won't help you because of your agenda or your orientation. They tell you that you really are not the person that you identify yourself as. And they threaten to out you with family, friends, and others. So the unique differences in the abuse really has to deal with sexual orientation. In other words, the abusers in the LGBT community do all the other abuse, but then they home in on the sexual orientation or gender identity, especially outing people. And they're constantly saying that the police will not help them. If you are in an abusive situation, you must, the first thing is that you have to tell yourself this is not your fault and that you deserve to be treated better. If you're in an emergency because of the abuse, you need to call 911. It can be hard to decide whether to leave or to stay. That's why you may have to get help by calling the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1 800 799 7233. Or you can call a friend and discuss your situation. Turning to friends, family, neighbors, or doctors, or your spiritual community, there's nothing wrong with that. You need to talk to someone that can help you and give you good advice. Now, here is the second most important thing that a woman who is being abused should do. You must have an emergency escape plan. You need to hide a set of car keys. You need to pack a bag with keys, extra clothing, important papers, money, and medicine. You might keep it at a friend's house. Have a plan for calling the police in an emergency. You might have a code word so your kids, family, friends, and co-workers will know that you're in danger, know where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. Now, for those of you who think you have a family member or a friend who's being abused, you should say something. You might have doubts about speaking up, but if you're thinking about it, there's usually a reason for why you think your friend or your sister or your mother is being abused. Someone's life could be in danger. When you talk to the person, you can ask if anything is wrong. Talk specifically about what concerns you. Listen carefully. Let the person know you are always there to talk to and that your conversations will always be private. You can offer to help and support the person's choices. I am going to pause for a second to take a short break.
Are you ready to make the most important step towards realizing your deepest life aspirations and dreams of becoming an aspiring, courageous woman? If you are truly feeling prepared to learn all you could possibly need to know in order to set up your life for success and understand how to avoid the common mistakes that present the pitfall of most, even the grandest dreams and ambitions, while getting on the fast track towards building a powerful, lasting, and successful character, personality, and life, you are in the right place. With Women of Courage, we pride ourselves on providing ambitious, aspiring ladies with the ultimate, most comprehensive, one-stop source of invaluable knowledge designed with one single purpose: empowering you to efficiently start on your way to absolute success and successfully building your life the way you want it to be. Please watch the intro video.
Don't be discouraged. Yes, you can live a life you want to and be the person you want to. Be a goal-getter. Take this bold step to order and purchase these life-changing books so as to learn the detail of the struggles and limitations women faced before becoming the icons they are today. Then you can avoid mistakes too. I'm going to be honest with you here. There's only one inspirational book which has encouraged me not to be fearful as a woman, but to take a bold but little step to changing my low self-esteem and total life situation positively, so quickly and greatly. My little secret has been the book's titled Women of Courage. This book has been so amazing and knowledge-packed. Before now, there hasn't really been a right, perfect time to do the right or perfect thing. Most often than not, I've continued to wait for the right time to have things done, but it always never comes. Not until I got hold of the books, Women of Courage. To gain knowledge and becoming a woman of purpose, only then I was able to create the perfect and right time to grab every opportunity that confronted me. I was strong and determined never to get too comfortable and to stop growing. I was able to use and control my anger and temper for the right course. I became the woman of courage that was not deterred of what people say. I created and took advantage of every opportunity where people saw as limitations. Thanks to the story of many courageous and determined women of history. Interesting, isn't it? The success story of many women who read the book convinced me. Here I am, more refined, courageous, and living the kind of life I have always hoped for. You too can become the woman of courage and purpose everyone would admire, just like me.
The Women of Courage series was written to help women learn about themselves and to turn women into winners. You do not have to settle for life prophesized by your teachers, the church, your parents, or your friends. You can change the scenarios and play the starring role. In order for women to learn to believe in themselves, to become the person they want to be, it is important for women to know where they came from. History is the standard by which we judge ourselves. If you have a good self-image, you will believe the sky is the limit. You can do anything or become anyone. But if you have a poor self-image, your thinking will be chaotic and you may never reach your goal. For centuries, women have played an important role in the development of society, yet this role has been practically ignored in folklore and in history books. Men have always had the starring role. Men have been the keepers of faith. Men have been the saviors of society. Men have been valiant, steadfast, and true, while women have been relegated to the sidelines where the peace setters were men. Today we shall put the story straight. The everyday slugfest that was carried on by ordinary women for century after century after century has never been told. Today, we present a pictorial representation to give you another view of the fight conducted by women. Pay particular attention to the conditions in which the women worked, and note this was a fight for survival.
Now, let's take a closer look at the abuser. Let us see what his behavior is like. Maybe we can be able to identify him before we start a relationship. Okay, an estimated 85% of the reported domestic violence cases are men abusing women, while 5% of reported cases are women abusing men, though this doesn't take into account abuse in the same sex relationships, which can also occur. Now, here are the predictors, the indicators that a person may have a proclivity to abuse. As survivors well know, the transition from love to control to violence can be slow and inconspicuous. And while domestic violence is a choice that abusers make, there are a number of factors suspected to contribute to the likelihood of someone becoming an abuser. Knowing these factors may help you identify risk related to a potential partner. One, there is a history of abuse in that person's family or past. He could have been physically or sexually abused as a child. A lack of appropriate coping skills, low self esteem, codependent behavior, untreated mental illness, drug or alcohol abuse, social economic pressures are a high indicator of abuse in low income communities, and a prior criminal arrest history. You must pay attention to these things. Of course, it should be reinforced that just because someone has endured one or more of these factors, it does not guarantee that they will become an abuser. However, on the other hand, abusers may try to use one or more of the above as an excuse for their behavior, negating responsibility and even using these reasons to justify their abuse. Consider this: a batterer who quits drinking is still a batterer. He just happens to be a sober batterer. Most people often think about abuse in the context of physical abuse, such as slapping, shoving, grabbing, pinching, biting, hair pulling, hitting, choking, strangulation, beating, or the assault with a deadly weapon. However, it is common that physical violence is a foreshadowing of other patterns of behavior and other forms of violence, such as calling someone a name or putting a person down, shouting or cursing, making threats. This is why you should not holler and scream at your daughter when you're disciplining her. Extreme jealousy or suspicion, keeping someone away from their family and friends, throwing things around the house or another person in a violent manner. There are other indicators, so you need to read up on the subject of how to identify a potential abuser. Whether you are being abused or are recognizing abusive behavior in yourself, you need to talk to a trained domestic violence advocate, and you need to do this confidentially. Now, why does a person become a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? What is on this person's mind who does the abusing? We must face the fact that domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, sending more than 1 million women to the doctor's office every year or to the emergency room. This violence isn't occurring from the hands of a stranger, but from the hands of the man who tells the victim, I love you. Let's take a look inside the minds of these men who abuse. There are too many women and men dying, people being injured, far too many children growing up in violent homes to later become victims or abusers themselves. Domestic violence happens when a partner physically, verbally, emotionally, and sexually abuses their intimate partners by exerting power and control over them. Domestic violence occurs in all cultures, all races, all religions, all classes, as well as same sex relationships. We find that domestic violence is perpetrated by men and women. 95% of reported domestic violence cases are men abusing women, and 5% of reported domestic violence cases are women abusing men. The national statistics on this subject is that every 12 seconds a woman is abused by her intimate partner in the United States. 37% of pregnant women are battered during their pregnancy, including blows to the abdomen. There are more animal shelters than there are shelters for victims of domestic violence in the United States. This needs to change. Again, I say there are more animal shelters than there are shelters for victims of domestic violence in this country. These numbers are staggering and they are growing. However, this is only what is being reported. Imagine how many women are being abused but never report the incident. Now, here is the cycle of violence. Phase 1, you have tension building. Usually there is tension building within the batterer, and there is usually an argument. Then he explodes, and that's when the assault happens. Third phase is the honeymoon phase. The abuser apologizes for his behavior, and he buys the victim gifts or flowers. The cycle of violence will not end until one partner leaves or one partner seeks treatment. There are 5 types of abuse, and they usually start with the less noticeable first and becomes more obvious as the abusive relationship continues. The 5 types of abuses are emotional, playing mind games, verbal and name calling, technological, meaning GPS tracking, Facebook sabotaging, sexual or forced sex while the partner is asleep, or basing sex on the Bible. Physical harm such as punching, choking, and including murder. Here's a good question. Would you know an abuser by looking at him? What makes them tick? What are the signs of a batterer? You can't tell if a person is an abuser by looking at them. Yet there are some telltale signs and behaviors that will give you some insight into who they are. Number 1, abuser, he uses jealousy. He's always questioning his partner constantly about their whereabouts, jealous of the time she spends away from him with her family or friends. He has controlling behavior. The victim cannot get a job, she can't leave the house, or bathe without permission. He isolates her. He makes the partner move away from the family and friends so that she has to depend on him solely for support. He forces sex against his partner's will. He holds very rigid gender roles. A partner's job is to cater to the abuser. These men who abuse are clever, they're smart, and extremely charming. Most of these men have a personality that draws people in. He is adept at charming, deceiving, and manipulating. When a person reports an assault, she is not easily believed. People normally say, "Not him. He's so nice. You're lucky to be married to him," or "You're lucky that he's your boyfriend." He gets people outside of the home to buy into his deceit, and the victim has little or no support. Most batterers are seen as Jekyll and Hyde because of the stark contrast in their public and private selves. When we look into the minds and behaviors of batterers, there's a certain criteria. These are very devious people. Number one, they can have an antisocial personality disorder, deceitfulness, repeatedly lying, using aliases or conning other people for personal profit or pleasure. They can also have a borderline personality disorder, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships by alternating between extreme ideations and devaluations. They can also have a narcissistic personality disorder, where they have a grandiose sense of self importance. Now, the treatment for this population is group therapy. It allows the batterer to be confronted by his peers on his behavior. It is important for the men to be held accountable for their behavior by other men and group facilitators. Group therapy focuses on respect, effective communication skills, honesty, nonviolence, and emotional regulation. The best therapy is individual therapy because this allows the batterer to express himself without the interruption of others during therapy sessions. But the batterer has to be strongly confronted and held accountable for his behavior. Sometimes a batterer will want to bring his partner to the session. This is not advisable. Men have to understand that there is no excuse for domestic violence. Here are some traits of domestic abusers. They're charming. Initially, he showers the woman with praise, adoration, and attention. His courtship is sweet and intense, filled with phrases such as "I can't live without you." He quickly pushes for an exclusive relationship or an engagement. That's a warning sign. He views other men as a threat to the relationship and will accuse the victim of flirting with everyone from his brother to the mailman. He'll say, "I know you were looking at him." The irony is that he is often the one who is cheating. The abuser is manipulative. This man is very intelligent. He knows how to detect your weakness, and he uses your vulnerability and his past pain to take advantage of you. You were abused as a kid because you were ugly. He is controlling. He wants to know where you are going and who you are going with at all times. He may check the mileage on your car or follow you to the grocery store. He will also refuse to allow you to work because you might meet someone. He's the victim. His poor choices are everyone else's fault. When he loses his job, he gets into a fight, or a business deal falls through, it's always because someone else did it to him. He is never at fault. That's why you made him hit you. He is narcissistic. The whole world evolves around you, and you're the little woman, so you're beneath him. It is your job to do everything that he wants to meet all his needs. You are the unworthy slave, and he's the master. It's invigorating for him to know that you are walking around on eggshells. He knows that you're afraid of him. Domestic abusers are inconsistent. They have mood swings. One minute he's happy and the next minute he's sad. And the next minute he's pounding on the table or putting his fist through the wall. Domestic abusers are also hypercritical. No matter how hard you try, you will never be able to satisfy this type of person. He thinks nothing of degrading and verbally assaulting you. You are stupid, you're fat, you're a disgusting tramp. You can never leave him. No other man will put up with you, and no other man will want you. Also, he's disconnected. His main goal is to isolate you from your family and friends so that you can be totally dependent on him. Your family causes too much trouble for us. I don't want you seeing him anymore. Yet he sees his family. Also, he's hypersensitive. Anything can set him off where he'll start ranting and raving. Everyone is out to get him. He's vicious and cruel. A significant number of abusers harm children and animals as well as their partners. Inflicting pain and intimidating others is what gives them power. I'll kill you before I let you go. If I can't have you, no one will. Then there is the insincerity. He repents. I swear I'll never hit you again. But unless he receives professional help and is strongly accountable, he is not going to change. This is not all of the information that we have on domestic violence. The next time we will include information that all women should have regarding abusers, and we will again discuss low self-esteem and sex trafficking. It is important that women see and understand the relationship between domestic violence and low self-esteem. You should be leery of anyone who demands a close or an exclusive relationship after only a few dates. You must be leery of anyone who does not want you to work or tries to separate you from your family or friends. And never marry anyone just so you can financially support your children. These are red flags that you need to pay attention to. Also, we must all realize that if you were raised in a home with an abuser, you can easily become a victim of an abuser, because over time you would have learned that women are supposed to be beaten and abused. That is expected of women to do as they are told by men. That religion dictates women should accept sexual abuse by men. That women are lesser beings than men.
You need to live life with a purpose. You need to spend the time needed to explore, to find your true passion. There are so many unhappy people in this world not willing to make a change. There are so many unhappy people not focusing on the big picture. 1 out of 3 people are happy with their lives. Think about that for a second. 70% of the people you see every day are not happy. And the majority of that has to do with purpose. People are programmed, wired to be okay with the minimum. People stay in jobs they're not passionate about. They date people who don't support them, hang out with people who don't help them grow. This can't be you. You need to spend the time to discover what your true calling is. What are you passionate about? What do you see yourself doing to make your mark? Are you in a job right now that you're truly happy with? Do you wake up every morning excited to start your day? If not, that's okay. You know now this isn't fulfilling you. But what are you gonna do about it? Are you willing to make a change to help reach your goals? If you are, it needs to start now. Because this won't happen overnight, finding your true calling. But once you do, you will see how everything changes. You will begin to see the quality of your life increase. All those problems you had, they slowly fade. You begin to see how powerful life is with a purpose.
Dear listeners, help us save a life. Stop breast cancer from taking lives. Will you assist us in putting the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer in the hands of 1 million people? Please go to the website www.touchedbythelight.us and download the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer. Then email this booklet to 5 friends, asking them to email the booklet to 5 of their friends. We are trying to reach 1 million women with this information to save lives. The death of one woman to breast cancer from our community is one woman too many. We thank you for your support.
Anything that you want in this life can be obtained. You just need to believe. Believe in yourself. You are strong. You are beautiful. You are resilient. You are what we call the women of courage. And your time is now. There are no victims in this life. So I'm asking you, are you ready to make a change? Are you ready to fight for what you want? Are you ready to fight for your dreams? If you are, it starts now. This is the Women of Courage.
You're watching Detroit's own WHPR TV. Detroit Live.
Hi, this is Renee stepping out on faith. You can watch me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the WHPR TV Now app. Download our free app at WHPR TV Now.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you for listening to Women of Courage and have a great day.